episode of Through the Year with John Wesley. It's all about reading between the lines to uncover a new insight for church growth today. Let's begin with one of Wesley's most interesting observations. He said, "There's no such thing as a solitary Christian," or words to that effect. Christian faith is at heart social. The good news is not reading the Sunday papers, it's creating the news that fills the papers. Let's have a look at a couple of terms that Wesley coined when Methodism was a vibrant, growing movement. These are society, class, meeting, helper, and bands. Wesley lived for the societies he created, but what were the societies really on about? There was absolutely nothing unique about the term society. A society was essentially a congregational unit, and various preachers started them long before John Wesley was born. Like congregations today, the size could vary a lot. Methodist societies built chapels for gathering, but they didn't build churches. That was because Wesley expected the Methodists to attend their local Anglican parish church. Now, once they'd observed all their duties towards the mother church, well, then they were free to sing, study, pray, preach, whatever. In their own premises, that is, their own chapel. There they could be whatever they wanted to be. The pivotal point is that the chapels were unconsecrated buildings, so it set them apart from the Anglican churches. But to go to chapel, to belong to a society, also meant you had rules. Now, volunteers especially need rules. The necessity for rules hasn't changed in centuries. The only things that change are the rules themselves. The second term to look at is class meeting, the modern equivalent of which is house church. The first set of class meetings was held in Bristol. The Methodist Society there was having problems raising money to pay its building debts. Their chapel, by the way, was called the New Room. So the locals divided up into groups of 12 and made it a rule to meet weekly. Now that meeting wasn't aimless. It wasn't just about fellowship and feeling good. At the class meeting, everyone would donate a penny, and the collection was overseen by the group leader. Now that's an important clue. House churches need reasons and purposes for gathering, and leaders need to do meaningful tasks. Third term to get to grips with is helper. That's easy. Mr. Wesley's helpers eventually became his lay preachers. Now, in his life as an ordained Anglican clergyman, Wesley really believed that preaching was the sole preserve of the ordained. His brother Charles also believed the same, but Susanna Wesley, John's mother, told her son in no uncertain terms that lay people called by God had just as much right to preach as the ordained. He eventually came round to her way of thinking. Persuasive mothers, they have their ways. You can find Wesley explaining why he did this on the grounds of scripture, history, and common sense. It's all in his sermon on the appeal to reason, which we've looked at before. And actually, that's a kind of third clue. Helpers for your cause might emerge from unexpected quarters. The fourth term to think about is a bit obscure. Wesley instituted what he called bands. Now that term isn't widely talked about in Methodism today. But think of it like an inner circle or inner group. A band was between 5 and 10 members strong. Essentially, the bands were highly segmented groups. Married men into this band, unmarried men into that band, and the same segregation for women. These small bands were highly committed people. They were on the road to what Wesley called Christian perfection. The leader of the band would watch over the meeting's members. They were expected to give an account of their ordinary lives, their triumphs and temptations, their victories in living the Christian life, and their lapses also. And that was Wesley's doctrine, which caused him so much trouble and difficulty throughout his long life. But in the late 1730s, early 1840s, the bands were the social glue which held the fledgling societies together. A society was essentially a collection of bands which were the inner circle. Now, they had tremendous power because they were really directly responsible to Wesley. He needed help, so he devolved authority onto the bands. Now that gives us a final clue. In fact, it's the pivotal clue, or so John Wesley thought. He was talking to some members in the Bristol Society who told him about their work with groups of 12. And Wesley records, quote, "It struck me immediately. This is the thing, the very thing we've wanted so long," unquote. So Wesley was prepared to let the bands turn into something more important, something new, the class meeting. He was both a great entrepreneur and he had a head for sound business management. Are New Zealand Methodists as good at those as he was? I wish. This, however, I do know. He listened to his mum. Help for the gospel usually comes from unexpected quarters. All it takes to change everything is to learn to see things from a different angle. That and a little faith and a gram of courage. Join me again next week when we learn more from Wesley's journals. The focus is on his healing ministry. See you then, and thanks for watching.